Thank you. One of the things, and the reason why I interrupted you, Jonathan, was one of the questions is, what do you see as the issues facing the Board of Health?
Okay, all right. I think that, there are a number of things that I think the Board of Health has to think about. One is grants going forward to support projects that the Board of Health wants to do, whether it's for blood drives or it's for flu vaccinations, or it's for, projects that you want to do on a local basis, such as, drug abuse and drug support programs that I've worked with Nicole on in the past a bit, things like that. I think that if you are looking for someone who can, as I said, look at some of the things in the weeds. You've got the issues you're concerned with, for example, for trash bags, for recycling, things like that. I don't know a lot about septic. I think I mentioned that last time. I'm willing to learn because that's part of what you do when you're on a board. But I think that in terms of a lot of the other areas, I think I can bring my knowledge base to it, especially when it comes to helping to look at the right people for the other right positions that ultimately will probably have to be hired to backfill currently what is not there. And as well as, I think I can bring a responsible party voice to the Board of Health, which will help support whatever the Board of Health decides to do and make the public at large feel supported and also listen to at the same time. So I think that that's a really important part to be able to bring to this.
Okay, thank you.
As indicated in the job description, this position is responsible as a member of a three-person board to provide leadership and policy direction to the Board of Health staff. Describe your leadership philosophy and how this philosophy would inform your approach in addressing the issues that face the Board of Health.
My leadership philosophy first is to learn, to listen and to learn and to ask questions. That makes me a better co-leader and maybe a leader someday, but certainly a co-leader. And I say co-leader because it's a board of three and we're all speaking as one much of the time. So my first responsibility is to learn and to listen and to ask questions. That's going to educate me. It's going to make me a better board member. It's going to make me more responsible to the community.
Thank you, Jonathan. Barbara?
Oh, I'm sorry. Please tell us about yourself, your education, and your work experience. How do you feel this has prepared you for the position as a member of the Board of Health in the town of Dayton?
So my background is very, very quickly, much of my life was spent working for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in the Department of Revenue as tax examiner. And then I switched gears to work in the areas that I do now, which is public policy and law for persons with disability. A lot of the work that I've done in the past, 18 years or so has centered around not just persons with disability, but working with persons in the public sector. I was a legislative lobbyist for several years for an organization in Boston. I've worked with state agencies and federal agencies on a lot of projects. I've organized and ran different programs for state and federal agencies. I've written grants for the state government for supporting programs. I've written federal grants in the past. So I think my background in terms of diversity and what I can bring to it gives an opportunity for the Board of Health to have someone who has some of those backgrounds and is comfortable working with organizations and groups on a local, state, and in some cases, if need be, even federal level.
Thank you.
Cool.
Do you have any management or budgeting experience?
I have, well, first of all, as I said, I worked for the Department of Revenue for approximately 20 years, teaching our examiners how to do audits and so forth. So I think I have a fair amount of budget experience in that respect. Very familiar with budgetary sheets from the public sector and cherry sheets to the private sector and corporate responsibility as well. I have my own business, which of course means I have to budget my business every year and meet the payroll for the staff, the two staff that I have, and be accountable for what I do. And then I've served on different organizations in the past. I was the treasurer of a church for several years in Canton. I have other things that I've done as well for different organizations where I've had to either manage a budget or put a budget together or present a budget to a committee at the end of the year.
Okay, thank you. Can you please describe any past experience you have working with a local Board of Health and or the Massachusetts Department of Health?
I've worked with the Dayton Board of Health. My only experience directly or indirectly really was working for a period of time on the project that Nicole was involved in for working with persons with disabilities and others who potentially may have some form of drug abuse or alcoholism, things like that. So that's my only direct role on the local level. On the state level and in other venues, as I said earlier, I have worked with MEMA in the past for evacuation routes and procedures and to secure equipment for other communities because that's part of the work that I do. And I've also worked with FEMA to do the same thing. So I've worked with them separately and I've worked with them collectively.
Great, thank you.
Please describe your experience with Title V and septic systems, and if you hold or previously held any licenses such as inspector or installer.
The answer to the question is mostly no and no. I don't hold, never had held any licenses for anything related to Title V at all. I'm familiar only with some of the basic rules and procedures for Title V. As I said, I think in my last interview, I found some of what I was learning and listening to and learning about and the requirements and so forth for older versus newer systems to be extremely interesting. But beyond that, I frankly do not have any direct knowledge of Title V. That doesn't mean I can't learn. And I know that's something that would be required for me to get up to speed to understand.
Thank you.
Jonathan, there are many facets of public health that are outlined in the job description that require a basic understanding of food protection, public health emergency preparedness, community sanitation, minimum housing standards, animal control, stormwater, landfill management, swimming pools, and septic systems. Please describe any experience, training, or certificates you may now hold or have held in the past.
I think as far as, I don't have any specific certificates to answer your question on that part of it, first of all. I think as far as my background and training, I've done a lot of work in public housing. I've worked extensively with the Canton Housing Authority, with the Cambridge Housing Authority, with the Boston Housing Authority on different projects that regard the condition of units and the welfare of its residents as well, securing programs, securing equipment that needed to be put into units so that people would have accessible resources, or simply making sure that units were kept up to date. I've done that through the affordable programs as well, through 40B housing programs in different venues in the state as well. With regard to water mitigation, for example, and stormwater, I'm not that familiar with stormwater at this point. I'm not that familiar with drainage issues otherwise. Again, I don't have that type of background at this point. I know there's a learning curve. I know it takes a lot to learn it and to understand it and to ask the right questions. And if I'm selected, that's something that I'm pledging to do. I don't expect that I will probably have any certificates in those areas. If I'm chosen by the Board of Selectmen and the opportunity comes to get training and certificates in any of these areas, I'm certainly going to avail myself of that. The more I can learn, the better off I am to the board, the better off I am to the Board of Selectmen, and the better off I am to the community.
This position requires fair and unbiased application of public health statutes, regulation, policies, and town bylaws. Enforcement may become a problem with some restaurants, homeowners, businesses, etc. What skills do you have that would enable you to effectively deal with residents who do not agree with you?
I think the skills that I have are pretty deep in that area, actually. I regard myself as an extremely good listener, as an extremely good negotiator, and as a person who, no matter what the situation is, doesn't take a side, doesn't try to take a side, but wants to show everyone that I'm listening, that I care. I may not agree with the decision that we as the board have to make, or the decision that we have to tell a resident, or I may not agree with something that a resident is saying to us, but my job is to listen responsibly and to render a thought process and or a decision that I feel is fair, and to be able to back it up. And it's one thing to say that you feel a certain way about something, and it's another, or to say this is what the way it's going to be. It's another thing to be able to justify it so that it makes sense and so that it's clear and understandable. without hopefully offending anyone or having anyone feel that you're singling that individual or that resident or that business out.
Great. Just to let you know, you got about 3 minutes. You got 2 questions left. Although extremely rare, individuals appointed as the Board of Health members must make a commitment to be available for emergencies or other circumstances that require their prompt attention. Do you feel there is enough flexibility in your schedule to be able to meet this commitment?
The answer to that would be yes. And I think, as some of you know already from other times when I haven't even been in the area, I always make it a point, if I can't be in the area, to be available, even if it means joining by Zoom without video. So yes, I do.
Okay, great.
As indicated in the job description, the position is responsible as a member of a 3-person board to the Board of Health staff. Describe your leadership philosophy. How would this philosophy inform your approach in addressing the issues that face the Board of Health?
I think that, first of all, working with the other members of the Board of Health and or the staff of the health department first needs to be led by whomever is the chair of the Board of Health. That's where we should be taking our direction from. If the chairperson is comfortable leading the entire team, which means the board and the staff, then we need to listen to that person. We need to communicate our thoughts to that person and not circumvent that person. I think that too much of that goes on in too many places too often. If the Board of Health staff are willing and the chairperson are willing to let me as a member talk to the staff, learn from the staff, ask questions, understand what they do, how they do it, when and why, then I'm going to ask, 110 questions until I get the answers that make sense to me and until I understand what they're doing. But to me, the most important thing is to really be able to listen to everyone. I keep saying this over and over, to listen and to learn. And I don't care if I've been on the board for 10 years, there's still a lot to listen and a lot to learn about. I will never, ever put myself in the position or the board in the position of speaking on behalf of others or speaking on behalf of a chairperson or speaking on behalf of the Board of Selectmen. I think that that's not appropriate. There's a line drawn between a member and the chair, and a line drawn between a member and the staff. And, those lines can be fine sometimes, but you have to respect each other's position.
Thank you.
Great. Jonathan, just one last question. Do you have any questions for us?
I don't have any questions right this minute. I guess I would ask, are you planning to make your appointment today? That would be my first question. And my second question, Mr. Chairman, would be, am I allowed to stay on the call and just listen in, as I was able to stay in last time and just sit in the room and listen in?
The question, first answer is yes, we are planning on making the decision this afternoon. And the second question, yes, you can stay on. Okay,
I have no other questions. And I know I'm calling from long distance. It's 107 degrees outside where I am right now, but I appreciate everybody giving me the time to share my thoughts this afternoon and consider me.
Welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Hi, Vincent.
It's ready to go?
Hi, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good. We're going to jump right in as soon as you get settled in.
Okay.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. I'm
Paul, how are you?
Nicole.
Hi, I'm Vinny.
Hi, Peter.
Peter, Vinny. Hey, Paul.
Hi,
How you doing?
Good.
Hello, this guy.
Batavia.
Good. How are you
How
doing?
are
Nice
you?
to meet you. Where do you want to sit? Anywhere?
Oh, right up to the
Podium.
podium.
Ah. Okay. Ooh.
You can't sit there, but you can stand. Are you going to ask questions or are you going to repeat yourself?
I'll ask
Okay.
questions, but he needs a microphone. Unless you think I should.
No.
Can I move you?
about them, how you have a container, the distribution box, and then the leaching field, even cesspools from what I read and researched can be Title V and can compare. They inspected for flow, they're inspected for if there's any breakages in the line, you take soil samples and, that type of thing. For Title V, I know if it's new construction, you have to adhere to, a Title V inspection. If you're selling a home, it has to be Title V. If it's been inherited by someone, it's Title V. If it's a bankruptcy, then it's Title V. But I know there are some exemptions in there, like transfers of mortgages and things like that are involved. But as far as, total in-depth, like if you ask me to go and inspect a septic system, I don't think I could be able to do that. But, I have, I don't have really any certificates, but again, I looked online about what would be required from the job description. And I saw that, some of those courses were like 3 or 4 hours that were on the FEMA website, and some of them were maybe a little bit more involved. But I think it's something that I could get up to speed with, fairly quickly. Except I'm retired, so you can have me tomorrow if you want me. I'm going to golf, but I can always make arrangements for that. So.
Awesome.
Great. We only have about 3 or 4 minutes left. So we're going to continue with the questions, but just keep that in mind as your answers.
Sure, absolutely.
This is a long question.
Okay.
There are many facets of public health that are outlined in the job description that require a basic understanding of food protection, public health emergency preparedness, community sanitation, minimum housing standards, animal control, stormwater, landfill management, swimming pools, and septic systems. Please describe any experience, training, or certificates you may now or have held in the past.
Yeah, I don't have any certificates or trainings like that. As I've reviewed the materials that I downloaded, like the Board of Health manual and things like that, that describe those and then gave like, hey, you have to meet this requirement and here's this number. I don't think any human being could possibly remember every single statute that is there. But again, I've looked at those courses online. I'm sure that I could acquire those certificates very, very quickly.
Thank you.
So this position requires fair and unbiased application of public health statutes, regulations, policies, and town bylaws. Enforcement may become a problem with some restaurants, homeowners, businesses, etc. What skills do you have that would enable you to effectively deal with residents who do not agree with you?
Well, I think you've got to come to an understanding with them. You have to be reasonable with them. I don't think you'd have to be very, very forceful, but if you calm, again, in my experience, as long as you're calm and you state the reasons why, and this is what's happening, lower the temperature, that usually will work out pretty well. You're always going to have people who are going to no matter what you say, are going to have that. But I think if you lay it out for them in a reasonable manner, and stay calm, and again, treat them the way they want to be treated, I think you'd be fine.
Thank you.
Great. Although extremely rare, individuals appointed as a Board of Health members must make a commitment to be available for emergencies or other circumstances that require their prompt attention. Do you feel there's enough flexibility in your schedule to be able to meet this commitment?
Yes, I'm retired. So from my understanding too, I know that the board meets like every third Tuesday, but you'll be on call all the time. Yes, I could do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
As indicated in the job description, the position is responsible as a member of a 3-person board to the Board of Health staff. Describe your leadership philosophy. How would this philosophy inform your approach in addressing the issues that face the Board of Health?
Again, I think that goes back to the leadership, like I said, where you just treat everyone the way that they want to be treated. And you've got to try to understand them, listen to what they're saying and address those issues for them. And again, do it in a quick manner. If you can't get right back to them right away, some of the hardest words to say is, I don't know, but it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'll get back to you. And I promise you, I'm going to get back to you on this time. And as long as you keep that commitment and you earn their respect, and again, lead by example. That's always been my way of doing things.
Great.
Thank you.
No better than anyone else.
Do you have any questions for us?
I do. I have a few.
Great.
So the length of term of this position, what I've read is like, it's 1 year, 2 years, is it 3 years? What is the length of the term?
It's 1 year.
1 year term, okay. And is that renewable?
Yes, well, the selectmen reappoint every year,
Every year,
different positions. Some are 2, some are 3.
Mhm.
Just so happens the Board of Health is every 1 year.
every 1 year, okay. All right. When I mentioned like the training classes, like for the certificates that would be necessary, for this position. Again, some of them look very quick for me, like 3.5 hours. I think one was one FEMA position. Some of them are a little more lengthy and involved. It's something I'm sure like the town is going to reimburse for if there's any costs that are involved as far as that's concerned.
That I'd have to look into.
Yeah. Okay.
Like sometimes like board members are able to go, there's like a 1 year training with, like the mass, I can't think of who they are, MHOB, is it MOHB? Because there's MOHA. Wait till you see how many acronyms, you're gonna have fun.
Okay.
But they have a training once a year, and generally that's paid through for the board members. But there's additional trainings that you'll do on, it's called training, and that would be something that you do on your own time that you don't get reimbursed for. It's something that you do at home, kind of like the FEMA training.
Oh yeah, I'm not worried about my time.
Okay.
I'm wondering if there was like a
Additional
course cost. So some of the ones that I saw on FEMA, I don't think there was a cost. You just
No.
sign up and you do it
Yeah.
online.
There's generally not a cost for the trainings, but if there is, we do have a grant right now.
Yeah, no, I'm not asking to be
Okay,
paid to take the classes. I'm not worried about
I
that.
didn't want to make sure.
No, I'm fine with that. So again, going back to like maybe the shortfall in position, I mean, I don't think you have an inspector right now. Is that correct?
Health agent, yes.
Yeah. So what are you doing now? What is the Board of Health doing? What is Selectmen doing? What are you doing now in order to address that? Are you contracting? I mean, I'm sure, I know that
We have somebody who had done it in the past, is helping us out right now.
okay, in the short term.
Right.
Okay, all right, that's good. The other, again, and this is just a general question, is like COVID-19. It seems to be making a resurgence. Are there any plans to address anything like that, that may happen as that comes up?
We have a system called Maven, and
Maven.
it sends us all the communicable diseases. And that's what COVID goes into right now. COVID doesn't require any tracking anymore. But if we were to have some other pandemic, endemic, something like that, it would be tracked through there, and the nurse does the Maven.
So it would come from the state. The state would say, hey, you need to enforce these policies. And
Yes, that's generally how it went with COVID. First CDC made some, then the state would decide to adopt them or not, and then it came down to the local level.
Okay.
And then for the most part, we generally had to adopt them or give us some leeway depending on what it was.
Okay. All right. Very good. And then the last question, again, I don't know if you have other interviews, but you're making the decision today, I think?
Yes.
Okay.
Make sure that you get notified today either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, if you're going to vote, I'll hang around. If not, I'll.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Yes,
welcome to it.
absolutely.
Great. Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thanks, Vincent. Hi, Lenny. How are you?
You are up.
Buddy, I just wanted to remind you, the interview lasts about 10 minutes.
Okay.
So, you've heard these questions before, I'm sure, but,
Well,
just take your time answering them and I'll let
Pass.
you know if time's getting tight.
no problem.
Nicole's going to leave us off.
So why do you want to be a member of the Board of Health?
I come before you today seeking a position on the Board of Health for 2 reasons. Over the past several weeks, approximately a dozen Dayton residents either visited me or called me asking that I go on the Board of Health to help reorganize help the board reorganize. As everyone is aware, there are several positions that are down, not only on the board, but also in regards to the health agent and the nurse. My work as a school committee member, selectman, and headmaster of the school have demonstrated my leadership and management skills that demonstrate professionalism, transparency, and integrity. Second reason that I'm seeking a position on the Board of Health is I truly believe that I have the experience and training in the health field to support the professionals who the Board of Health will be hiring to do the job on a day-to-day basis. For the past 39 years, I have worked for the Department of Public Health and Department of Developmental Services for the vendors in both the hospital and group home setting. I worked at Bridgewater State Hospital, transitioning individuals out of that facility back into community as part of the federal Judge Joseph Toro decree. I have worked extensively with individuals with behavior disorders, developmental delay, and currently supervise a home of 5 individuals who have acquired brain injuries. Over those 39 years, I have 9 years of supervisory experience in both ABI and developmental delayed programs. ABI is acquired brain injury. In addition, I also served for 10 years as a member of the Greater Taunton Attleboro Health and Human Service Coalition on their Substance Abuse Task Force as a representative of Taunton Public Schools.
No, that was it for me.
Okay. What do you see as the issues facing the Board of Health right now?
The issues I see with Board of Health, threefold. And as Mrs. Mello mentioned 2 meetings prior, getting a public nurse, very important. We put a lot of work into that health alliance grant as well as Maven, and I'd hate to see that be jeopardized by any delay in hiring a public nurse. Also, they do a great and did a great job with the people at prime time. That's very important because that not only helps them, but it creates an image of the community of good government, good service. The second is hiring a health agent. And the third on my list of priorities is improving communication between the stakeholders, whether it be the Board of Health, stormwater, or solid waste.
Great. Thank you.
As indicated in the job description, this position is responsible as a member of a 3-person board to provide leadership and policy direction to the Board of Health staff. Describe your leadership philosophy and how this philosophy would inform your approach in addressing the issues that face the Board of Health.
It's very important that communication is such that the people who run Board of Health on a day-to-day basis are not having their hands tied by multiple forces trying to tell them how to do their job. That only creates division and chaos. It also, as we've witnessed in the past, led to some very talented people leaving us. The board is a policy-making board. They set direction. They oversee the day-to-day operation through the health agent, who I'm not quite sure where the board wants to go. There had been some discussion at some point, if the Board of Health agent worked out, that would make that a department head. Until such time, then my understanding is that the health agent working through the board would also very much keep the town administrator involved, since some of that fiscal responsibility will be still in the hands of the Board of Selectmen until such time that that person is a department head. As far as the nurse, they will come under the health agent. And also, it's very important that the office manager position be defined as to who their supervisor will be. In an ideal world, it would be health agent, department head. But I think that needs to be clarified, especially where it is a union position.
Okay. Lenny, I just want to remind you, keep your answers as short as possible because we're running out of time. So you have about 7 more questions to go.
Barbara?
Yep, the next one, I think you partially answered it. Please tell us about yourself, your education, and your work experience. How do you feel this has prepared you for the position as a member of the Board of Health in the town of Dayton?
Spent 39 years in the public health field. I have a master's degree in educational leadership. I've also served as a member of the Board of Selectmen.
Do you have any management or budgeting experience?
Budgeting experience. Well, working as a member of the Board of Selectmen, I helped to oversee a budget of, at one time, $34 million. I also was a member of the Dayton Rehoboth Regional School Committee, where we oversaw a budget. At the time I was on the board, was about $43 million. Other than that, I did run a program through the Taunton Area School to Career, where we did payroll, and I had a budget for a summer school to work program.
Can you please describe any past experience you have working with the local Board of Health and/or the Massachusetts Department of Public Health?
In regards to the Board of Health, I served for a short period of time as a liaison to the Board of Health and working through helping to improve communications with the Board of Selectmen. As far as with the Department of Public Health, more so directly early on. That situation with Judge Truro decision was pretty intense. State of Massachusetts was looking at serious fines if they had a couple individuals who were at Bridgewater illegally. And we met constantly on that because it was the federal government that was coming down on the state. So I met, the woman's name was Elaine Hill, on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Please describe your experience with Title V and septic systems, and if you hold or previously held any licenses such as inspector or installer.
That area I am weak at. I don't have any experience in that area.
There are many facets of public health that are outlined in the job description that require basic understanding of food protection, public health emergency preparedness, community sanitation, minimum housing standards, animal control, stormwater, landfill management, swimming pools, and septic systems. Please describe any experience, training, or certificates you may now hold or have held in the past.
The area of stormwater and the area of solid waste, spent a great deal of time negotiating policy and some contracts. In the area of foods, I'm very much interested in getting my ServSafe certification. And I think from what I've read up on it, it's something that can be done relatively quickly as compared to Title V, which will take some time.
Thank you.
Just want to let the board know that, and I know it has been said that I might have a lot on my plate. And that with that in mind, my primary focus is going to be Board of Health. And I would agree to step down from conservation and open space if I am appointed to this position. As I said at the beginning, I had many residents come to me, and that really, I took in a sense of pride, but also as a sense of a job that needs to be done, and roll up the sleeves and go to work. And I plan on doing that.
This position requires fair and unbiased application of public health statutes, regulations, policies, and town bylaws. Enforcement may become a problem with some restaurants, homeowners, businesses, etc. What skills do you have that enable you to effectively deal with residents who do not agree with you?
Having served 3 years on the Board of Selectmen, you learn diplomacy. You learn to work with people to compromise if compromise is permissible. But it's a big part of treating people with respect and being transparent. And that's been who I've been since I've been involved in government, whether it be back in the days of the school committee or when I served as a member of the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Though extremely rare, individuals appointed as Board of Health members must make a commitment to be available for emergencies and other circumstances that require their prompt attention. Do you feel that there is enough flexibility in your schedule to be able to meet this commitment?
Yes, I am very fortunate in the job that I have now that I do have that flexibility of working first shift or second shift.
Okay, thank you.
As indicated in the job description, the position is responsible as a member of a three-person board to the Board of Health staff. Describe your leadership philosophy. How will this philosophy inform your approach in addressing the issues that face the Board of Health?
Okay, I think I answered that earlier, but
Yeah,
Yes.
management has to be team. There's no I in team. There's no top down. There's communication. There's working together to solve problems. Those problems are people's problems. When you work together, you create a good image with the community, a level of professionalism that builds confidence in the taxpayers and the voters. That's really what it's about. As far as the Board of Health, as a resident said to me, the Board of Health, in one sense, is pretty straightforward. There are rules. There are laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that must be followed. There are bylaws that must be followed. You work with people, but in the end, the laws of the Commonwealth are what we go by.
great. Thank you, Lenny.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for us, Leonard?
I believe I've covered everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Tammy.
Hello.
How are you? Good.
Good.
Tammy, we're going to ask you about 12 questions.
Sure.
We're just going to jump right into it. And if you feel something needs to be repeated or you feel like you're going off on a tangent, we can just
Okay.
start the question all over again.
Sure.
So Nicole is going to lead us off.
Hi, Nicole.
Why do you want to be a member of the Board of Health?
Well, I have a very interesting background. I was a police officer for over 20 years. I worked in the second largest city in Rhode Island. I worked for 20 years. I worked the streets for those 20 years. And then the last 2 years of my career, I investigated animal cruelty. So I think, judging by the job description, I think I've done pretty much what's close to the job description as a police officer. As a police officer, you're the electrician, you're the plumber, you're inspecting things. You work closely with the Board of Health, you work closely with the state, work closely with the town or the city administrators or divisions. So being retired, I felt as though I wanted to get back into it, but I don't think I could jump back into being a police officer. I'm a little out of shape now. So I thought, this would be great. I didn't expect it to apply, but I saw it on Facebook and I thought, gee, that might be something that I'd really enjoy. And based on my experience, my professional experience, I think that I would have a lot to offer the town. So I thought it was a great opportunity.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. What do you see as the issues facing the Board of Health?
Well, I think since COVID, times have changed. And then the Board of Health is involved or intertwined with so many different things. So I think any issues that could come up could be potentially hazardous at times, depending on what you're dealing with. My specialty is animals, obviously, if I investigated the animal abuse. So you could potentially have a rabid animal that could come into town and say perhaps a kitten. Everybody loves kittens. You have 10,000 people touching the kitten. Now you really have a problem on your hands. So it's, could potentially, you could have something very small blow up into something very large.
Thank you.
As indicated in the job description, this position is responsible as a member of a three-person board to provide leadership and policy direction to the Board of Health staff. Describe your leadership philosophy. and how this philosophy would inform your approach in addressing the issues that face the Board of Health.
That's a great question. I think as far as leadership, I always think lead by example. You always want somebody who is not just going to say, you have to do this, this, and this is what expected, and do something totally different. You want that person to lead you. So they're going to abide by the rules. There's going to be accountability. Throughout my career, I think about all the great bosses I've had. And with that in mind, I think somebody who listens. I've had some wonderful, wonderful bosses, some not so great, but judging by the ones who were great, if you had a potential problem with a case, you would approach a supervisor. And those supervisors that listen, they'd always listen to what you had to say. And they'd say to you, okay, well, how do you want to proceed? So by them listening, you felt as though you were part of it. They weren't going to ridicule you for making the wrong decision or say, oh, that's not how I would do it. So somebody who listens. So going with lead by example, somebody who's being reliable, accountability, I think is huge because it's like a child. It's human nature. If there's no accountability, people are just going to take that extra step and take the extra step. So I think a good person who is a leader is going to lead by example. And I always think, judging a good leader, you're not going to really look at a person and judge them by that particular person. I always say, you're going to look at the group that they lead. How are they progressing? Say if you work for a company, how are their sales? How are they performing? So you always can judge a good leader by the people that they lead.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Tammy. Please tell us about yourself, your education and work experience. How do you feel this has prepared you for the position as a member of the Board of Health in the town of Dayton?
So as I mentioned, I was a police officer for over 20 years. I do miss the profession. I'm just not able to keep up anymore physically wise. I have a bachelor's degree from Salve Regina University. I have to say I had a wonderful career. The last 2 years, as I had mentioned, it wasn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. Investigating animal abuse, as you can imagine, it was difficult. So as far as my job itself, writing search warrants, executing search warrants, I found myself in situations, I was mostly in Providence, Rhode Island, by ourselves, investigating a particular case. So I did a lot during my career. I've been almost everywhere. I've done so many different things. As far as investigating crimes, from autopsies to crime scenes, to dealing with grieving families, to dealing with the person on third shift who was handicapped and wanted us to come over and turn up his heat. So there was so many different things, and it was just so rewarding. So I do miss that, and I think that's why applying for this position, it would kind of bring me back into what I'm trained to do.
Tammy, I just want to remind you, we're going to be short on time.
Sure.
Everybody gets 10 minutes, just
Sure.
answers to the questions that are asked.
Okay.
But we're not going to have that much more time left.
Okay, sure.
We've got about 6 more questions.
Okay.
Do you have any management or budgeting experience?
Yes, both.
Okay. Please describe any past experience you have working with a local Board of Health, which you probably have some,
Yes.
and or the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. In
Okay.
your case, maybe it's Rhode Island.
Everything was Rhode Island. So I've worked with both Department of Health in Rhode Island and in the city that I worked for.
Okay.
So it was, we did all different things, from going to houses, having to deal with, public issues where we had to contact, or I had to go on calls with the Department of Health or Board of Health rather, from the city. So we were requested to go out with individuals working for that agency.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Please describe your experience with Title V and septic systems, and if you hold or previously held any licenses such as inspector or installer.
Licenses. However, when I just bought my home almost 3 years ago, it'll be 3 years coming up soon, I went through a nightmare of a Title V. So I wish it was more pleasurable, but that's the only experience I have with Title V.
Thank you.
There are many facets of public health that are outlined in the job description that require a basic understanding of food protection, public health, emergency preparedness, community sanitation, minimum housing standards, animal control, stormwater, landfill management, swimming pools, and septic systems. Please describe any experience, training, or certificate you now or have held in the past.
So animal control, as I mentioned, public health, sanitation, stormwater, when we had the big floods in Rhode Island many, many years ago. Nothing really with swimming pools, other than I wish I had one today. I think mostly my big background would be animals, because that's what I did for the last 2 years.
Thank you.
This position requires fair and unbiased application of public health statutes, regulations, policies, and town bylaws. Enforcement may become a problem with some restaurants, homeowners, businesses, etc. What skills do you have that would enable you to effectively deal with residents who do not agree with you?
Well, I did 40 hours of FBI training, crisis negotiation. I was a hostage negotiator. So I think this would be something I could handle.
Although extremely rare, individuals appointed as Board of Health members must make a commitment to be available for emergencies and other circumstances that require their prompt attention. Do you feel that there is enough flexibility in your schedule to be able to meet this commitment?
Yes, I'm retired.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
As indicated in the job description, the position is responsible as a member of a 3-person board to the Board of Health staff. Describe your leadership philosophy. How will this philosophy inform your approach in addressing the issues that face the Board of Health?
As I had mentioned, lead by example, accountability, being reliable, listening. My idea isn't the only idea. So I like to listen to what other people have to say. I think that's a good way to learn, is by listening. And I think I've done that all of my career. Really, that was my best tool, was my listening.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for us?
No,
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank
So
you.
much.
Okay, what happens now is Barbara, as being the sole member of the Board of Health, is going to make a couple of recommendations for the members of the Selectmen to either accept or reject, I guess, the
Can we find that nicer word?
yeah.
I want to keep them all.
I know.
Me too.
But what I suggest, Barbara, is if you want to go through your notes and think about it, we can move on and come back to this before too long. Or if you're ready to make a recommendation now.
As I said, I'd like to keep them all.
Yeah, I know. So would I. They're all
No,
excellent.
I really have to thank you all, and Jonathan too, for being here. You're all so phenomenal. You're really good.
Agree.
We've been battling for a couple of years here, and this is the best interview so far with well-qualified people. But we have to make a decision, and I really feel Len Hull is well-rounded individual, experienced in public health statutes. He knows the town, knows the regulations, town bylaws, very experienced in, has been on plenty of committees. So I would recommend Len Hull as one. And the second one, I would recommend Tammy Mello, with her vast experience dealing with town, state rules, regulations, experiences in the animal field, not only in the animal field, but in the public field, where we as board members, well, I know I do a lot, go out and we have to talk to people that are upset with their neighbors over this or that, and try to smooth everything down, but yet still hold to our rules and regulations. And at times it's very, very difficult. I feel her training would really add to that. So my two would be Len Hull and Tammy Mello.
Okay.
I have a professional conflict with one of the candidates.
Sure.
So I'm just going to echo that. I think they all interviewed very well, and we're lucky with any of them, but I'm going to leave it to my fellow board members to make this decision.
Thank you. So your two recommendations are Mr. Hull and Mrs. or Miss Mello.
Yes.
And
I feel that they will really well-round the Board of Health as we need it now. And also, the three of us would be able to coexist, work together, and work with the future health agent, which is very, very important, extremely important.
okay,
I'd have to say I agree on Tammy Mello. I'm not saying I disagree on Mr. Hall, other than I know he has a lot on his plate. He said that he would clear his plate for this, which I appreciate it. But he just got on these committees. He just got it started. He's working hard. I'd hate to see him do that. As well as I'd like to see some new faces. And one of the things about Vincent that I really liked was the project management. I think that the board could really use project management skills. I hear a lot all the time that the department has so much going on, we can't do it all, blah, blah, blah. I think some project management skills would really help with that. So if I don't know if I need to make a motion in two folds or if I combine them or.
we could make a motion however you'd like, individually
I'll
or.
do it individually, just so
okay.
there's an opportunity if there's any
Sure.
changes that need to be made.
So
I
Mark
think-
is reclusing himself, so
Yeah.
this is just going to be between yourself and myself.
Yes. I make a motion to accept Tammy Mello as Board of Health member.
Okay, I will step down and second that motion. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion to accept Vincent Herbert as a Board of Health member.
This is where it gets tough. We have three qualified candidates. I would prefer to see Mr. Hull because of his experience doing this. I understand what you're saying about being new on two other boards and leaving them at a precious time. I think if Mrs. Catavia prefers to have Mr. Hull, then I would abide by her wishes.
May I speak?
Well, now we're on, just one more thing. The
Yeah.
thing is, one of the biggest complaints that I hear is that we recycle people and that so many people are on the
Sure.
same boards. And then here we are, we're not, it doesn't sound nice. I don't mean recycling, but we're not taking a new face that is
Okay.
highly qualified. And that's my biggest concern.
Yes.
She's trying to pull in conservation.
I said you can come to conservation.
Oh,
Yeah.
Are you taking public input?
yes, sir.
You are?
I don't think that's
No,
professional.
Oh, we're in the middle of a motion. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Barbara, can Barbara say something? She was.
Yes, go ahead, Barbara.
Yes, and I totally agree. Mr. Hibbert is extremely qualified. But Mr. Hull has been in town and we're not recycling him. We need his experience. We need a board that is going to be solid from what's been happening the last 2 years. We need a board that is solid, works together, and can get it all done.
There's nothing to say that Mr. Herbert wouldn't work.
Oh, I'm not saying he isn't, but you yourself know that it's a great help to know the people in this town, the boards in this town, how to get things done and who to contact to get them done. I mean, just walking off the street, it's going to have a learning plan. And Mr. Hull, he knows it. He's been there. He's been through it. And I don't think that's a recycling thing. I think he's stepping up to help this board. He knows that his expertise, his experience would be a great aid to this board.
I just think that the town deserves a diverse pool that we're pulling.
No, I don't think we need a diverse. I think we've got to stay together, and I think we have to agree on things.
I think that we
Talk
continue
them
to see the
over.
same things happen because we continue to go down the same routes.
I don't know, the Board of Health has had very diversified people over the last 4 years I've been involved here. And not all of the boards got things done. And now that the Board of Selectmen is working tightly with us, I feel that we can really accomplish a lot.
I've said my put, I think it should
Okay.
be. Vincent, I worked in a health department. I know what the board is supposed to do, and I know that it was still, the department still run well if it's a new members that are not completely in the line.
Karen, what happens here if the Board of Health Committee
Come to a consensus.
doesn't come to a consensus?
I don't think you have to vote for the second.
We,
Go ahead.
I can't possibly be the deciding vote.
That's what I thought, but
I think the Board of Selectmen, if we can show that we can work together, that's the best.
yeah,
If the board can make the decision, I think that would go a long way.
I feel strongly about this.
I
okay.
do too. And I'm the one that's going to have to work there, work with the people, work with the selectmen, work with the town, and overcome what's been happening at the Board of Health for the last 18 months.
Okay, the Board of Health has been fine. The department was fine. I mean, you stood up at a meeting that was completely inappropriate and spoke bad about the health agent, who then in return quit. So that was not.
Excuse
that was
me,
not
when
good.
was this?
That was at the police.
No, I did
Can-
not speak
can we just
about
have
a
another
person.
motion?
I spoke
Yeah.
about the
Okay.
position.
Can we table this?
Yes, that's what I was going to suggest.
I'll motion to table the second position.
Step down a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Okay, yep.
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Thank you.
We'll reverse it if you want to have discussion.
No, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Then we're going to move on to old business. Review, discuss, and act. Revote Bristol County Agricultural High School debt exclusion question.
So this item was read at our last meeting, and although it was vetted, just reading it out loud, I thought there could be some confusion amongst voters because the word new was in there.
Yep.
So I asked our interim town administrator and Karen and Leanne to look at it again and just to reword it, which they've done. And all they did was simply just rework it to not say new, to make it sound
Okay.
like the renovation that it was. So I was just hoping if it's okay with the board, we can vote just on this question here, which is just very slightly amended.
Sure.
And I'll read it.
Excuse me,
If you
Mr.
don't mind.
Chairman.
Bristol County Agricultural High School District suggested form of debt exclusion ballot question. Shall the town of Dayton be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 1/2, so-called, the amounts required to pay for the town's allocable share of the bond issued by the Bristol County Agricultural High School District for the purpose of paying costs of designing, engineering, constructing, and equipping the district high school to be located at 135 Center Street in Dayton, Massachusetts, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the Board of Health is still seated here. I think
Yeah.
I have to
Sure.
recuse or whatever. I'm not sure what.
Well, what's going to happen is I'm going to talk to Jim and to find out exactly how we
Mhm.
proceed.
Okay,
And we'll get back to you and the applicants.
very
As to what
good.
happens
Thank
next.
you.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you for applicants. You were very, very good, very.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is new business now. Review, discuss, and act memorandum of understanding for the police officers local 1306. And I believe we're just signing this afternoon, correct?
This is, nothing has changed since. when we
No,
went
I'm
over
just
this.
making sure that,
Just wasn't on the open meeting agenda.
No, I know.
right. Okay, so we just need a motion on the floor then to approve the memorandum of understanding for the police officers local 1306. And we'll, there's a motion, we'll approve it this evening.
Was this reviewed by council, this? Labor Council?
I was just looking for changes, but I don't see any.
Were there recommendations adopted? Everything from council, Labor Council? Everything's adopted?
Oh, the changes,
The changes?
not necessarily.
So that's just, I'm not fully briefed on what changes Labor Council recommended versus what's actually in the
Okay,
memo, but I guess I defer to you because you were on that.
right. Well, just going through it on the other day when I met with Jim, I don't believe there were any changes from Labor Council other than a couple of wording.
Suggestions, but town administrator didn't feel that they were.
Right. They were warranted in changing
Yes.
Are you comfortable with it?
Yes, I am.
And you went over it with them, those Labor Council suggestions, and
We went over the suggestions and I think there were just a couple of clerical things, right? Right,
They were minor changes. but
Yep.
the town administrator picked up the-
right.
okay. Well,
So yes, I feel comfortable with it.
okay, that's what I needed to hear. So I'd make a motion to accept the memorandum of understanding police officers local 1306.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Move on to end of year line item transfers. The only question that I have is,
Serena is on.
Serena's what, okay, we didn't receive any backup like we were going to,
For,
the invoices.
So I don't know if people see. Sure. When I approached Serena, we had both talked about whether on Thursday, whether you need backup, we didn't think you would. I thought maybe if I just came here and explained it to you, you'd understand a little bit better.
Sure.
Okay. So we.
If you could just come up to the podium if you don't mind. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So, yeah, did you need me to repeat what I said? or-
No, it's okay.
Okay. So we ended up having 3 of these budget transfer requests. I think what was going on was Maureen was a little confused and I didn't know what was going on. But what the money was, so the money is 2 that are left here. One of them's RJR Properties, Horton Street, was a 53G. And our consultant, Marty Nover, had overbilled us by accident and it got paid. And then Serena found it. Serena, correct me if I'm, misspeaking. But, so it got paid and then we thought, well, we already overpaid her. What are we gonna do now? So that was that one. Right, Serena?
I don't know if I knew it was an overpayment to Marty, but if that's the case, is she not able to reimburse us the overage?
We asked her to, or Jim just maybe didn't feel comfortable asking her to because she did more work than on this one, they ended up withdrawing the application and they didn't want to pay anything else. So,
So I'm missing something. We overpaid as the town,
yeah,
overpaid the attorney,
no, a wetland consultant,
wetlands consultant.
yeah.
They don't want to reimburse us because they've done additional work, which can't happen. That's a separate
Right, that's a separate issue.
issue. So she has to reimburse us and Jim has to ask.
Okay, so, yeah, if that's what we need to do, we can ask her for it.
Yes,
Okay.
okay. So this is,
Well, didn't we already ask, Serena?
I'm not sure if your department had already asked, but just to be clear, we would have to receive this money by the middle of September for it to not impact residents or free cash.
Okay, well, we'll request it. But then the other one was the 1,500.
yep,
So with that, situation, we have, of course, you guys must know, we have a bunch of violations, issues. This one, we started fining him, and we fined him based on the bylaw on a weekly basis. I think Mark was even here when we started fining him. So we'd start, instead of me mailing, we had to have a constable do it.
Okay.
And so we didn't have any money because, everybody cuts our budget. We don't have much money in our accounts. So we needed to deal with him, and we're still dealing with him, and now the lawyers are dealing with him. So it was lawyer fees, constable fees for the county street violation.
It's 1,500.
Yeah, if that's what Serena says it is, that's what it is, yeah.
Okay.
But I think in hindsight, we would have probably used a different fund. We have, notice of intent filing fees we could have used.
Excuse me, Serena asked me to supply you this report to show you which budget lines were in the negative.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
It was attached to the original.
You won't see this one.
I'm good, thanks. So, during the budget process, when there was departments that were late, I made it very clear that agitated me.
Did it, Mark?
It did. We set policy and we set direction, and
Yeah, I didn't really understand this was even going on, Mark.
but we were clear that we wanted invoices, and then when someone's asking something of me, but what we asked, maybe not of you specifically, but you and the town, accountants, and just in general, we asked for copies of the invoices, and we don't have them. And that's tough, because we are the decision makers, and I don't have all the information, and we discovered
Understandable.
reimbursements, and, I remember the Board of Selectmen always made a big deal about year-end transfers, and this doesn't seem like it was managed well, so I'm not happy about this, and if we're not statutorily required to entertain this, I would not support it.
The other issue is, I just want to kind of defend the department a little bit. We have Maureen 8 hours a week, and last week she only was able to do 4. This week, she's only going to be able to do about 4 or 5. So, that's what I'm running up against, and I have my own deadlines of issuing permits within 21 days. It's just, the list is,
Why is she not able to fulfill her schedule?
well, there's a,
Well, I mean, doesn't,
well, last week, I don't know, but we had to have a sit down to discuss things.
Okay.
So I really would rather not talk about it.
yeah, that's,
She's only 8 hours a week for us anyway. And in hindsight, to be honest with you, we've kind of taken the budget stuff away from her because she's only 8 hours a week.
Yep.
And given it to a volunteer member to start doing, because we realized that this is a mess and some of the stuff has become a mess. So,
I think it's helpful that they realize that this
yeah,
is not favorable and that you are taking steps to do better in the future.
thank you.
I appreciate that.
okay. What would you like to do? You don't want to do it, Mark?
Unless we hear from the town accountant that says otherwise, I would entertain it.
Serena?
Yes, so regarding the transfer number 14 for 1,500,
Yeah.
these transfers were due at the beginning of June, and at the end of June, Maureen and Dim Digits have come into my office with 2 gay legal bills. And I looked at their budget at that moment in time, and factored in the amount of those two invoices, and it was gonna put the budget into a negative 1,300 and change. So at that point, I suggested to round up to 1,500 in case there was anything else out there that nobody knew about. And then at year end, after all of the payrolls and all of the invoices were inputted, I reran everyone's budget again and realized that conservation was still going to be negative after that 1,500 transfer. And that's where transfer number 16 comes in for an additional 200 to bring that budget as a whole into a positive number. You guys are more than welcome to not approve them. Then that would just go as an appropriation deficit on the tax recap when I go to file in the fall. And I apologize, I didn't realize that we needed to pull a year's worth of invoices for this meeting today.
I know, I never would have been able to get it done either. I mean, not with the little time I have her.
Okay, I would recommend that we pay them.
There's one though that you're gonna go back and try to,
Yeah, the
22.
So we can put a formal request into Marty for I can ask Mr. Digits to
Yep.
request it.
Okay, please do.
Yeah,
So that one we won't touch. And Mark, you prefer not to do the other two?
I don't know, because I don't want to affect the taxpayers either. I guess I just want to make a point that
Sure.
when we set direction,
Yeah.
we didn't even know it was a year's worth of invoices. We just knew that there was unexpected lawyer fees.
Right, that's
So
all we were told.
I guess a communication in advance or something. So I'll make the motion to approve transfer 14 and 16 as presented.
I guess there was also a communication breakdown. I didn't even know this was happening, so.
Okay, that happens.
thank you for coming tonight.
All right.
Thank you.
Motion made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vacation carryover request. We still have fire, two of them with 96 hours, but with no explanation.
I did give an updated carryover request for this meeting that added 2 more columns that shows what's contractually allowed. And for the fire department, their 2 weeks is 96 hours.
There's 96 hours, okay. So it's just,
Where would the mark?
Mark. He has 105 hours. It started mid-year, didn't realize that he had time on the books.
He was going off of the clerical union contract and he thought he had to wait 6 months to start using his time, but in his case, his contract is not like that.
Okay. Well, we can't let him carry it over if we want to make the exception.
What are your thoughts, Mark?
Does he have a full employment contract that would outline it? Just like any
He
other
has a
contract
with
employee?
us, yes. We signed it several months back. I think it was before you were here.
Okay.
So why would he be going off the clerical at his own?
All right, so while we think about that for a second, also clerical, we still have that one employee where it says contractual allowance is 70, but they have the 74 hours.
Who is that exactly?
Christina
Christina,
Franca? She's only allowed 70 and she's carrying over 74?
Oh, I didn't realize that one. I can look that up right now.
And then we were gonna take out the health agent because they're not with us anymore.
Right, correct. It doesn't seem updated other than the column.
And then I'm thinking,
In March.
just for like 3 weeks off, how does she still have 7?
right?
I don't understand, but it might be like. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a contract is a contract, so I would recommend we have contracts with unions. We spend a lot of time negotiating them. And, we have contracts with employees that are negotiated. So I would suggest that we follow our contracts. That's my thoughts.
I agree.
So the library, can he carry over 80 hours,
The library, 2 weeks is 70 hours.
70 hours? So he'd lose 25 hours, 35 hours. Because he could still carry over the 70. And Christina, you're saying it should be 70?
70 is her contractual allowance. She has 74 available, so 74 must have been the request that came in from that department. And I
But she's,
didn't. catch the
but she's
lower-
only allowed 70.
Correct.
So we'd make her 70 then. Not the 74.
And the health agent, I had her resigning today. Which I didn't know she was supposed to be removed from this list.
I mean, personally, I'd give it to him, but I understand we have contracts.
She's resigning today. When does this go into effect?
This is a carryover from June 30th into the new fiscal year. So technically, it's as of June 30th.
It sounds like we still pay out. Am I understanding correctly?
If we approve this.
Yeah, okay. That's fine. I just want to make sure I understand correctly.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the FY '24 vacation carryover request with no exceptions to the contractual allowance.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The warrants, I think, are next.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to pay warrants paid through June 30th, 2024, 54A-24 in the amount of $130,407.94. 54B-24 in the amount of $227,854.67. And 54C-24 in the amount of $29,505.82.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in
Excuse me?
favor? Yeah.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Those weren't actually the warrant amounts that we're missing.
What's that highlight? Is that what you did?
Yes. So
Just give me 1 second. I believe it's warrant. I didn't write down the actual numbers. I just have the dollar amounts. So from June 30th is warrant 55A and 55B.
okay.
The ones that we already did.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. No, that's fine. I'm gonna strike that last motion. So I'd like to make a new motion for warrants paid June 30th, 2024, 55A-24 in the amount of $44,289.38 and 55B-24 in the amount of $141,466.42.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. And I'd like to make a motion for warrants paid July 11th, 2024, 2A-25 in the amount of $123,376.72 and 2B-25 in the amount of $255,485.66.
Motion made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excuse me.
Yep.
We need the one from 7-3, which is warrant
7-3, right?
Okay.
Okay, so some were highlighted somewhere, but that's okay. Warrant paid July 3rd, 24, 1B-25 in the amount of $1,117,471.34.
Motion
I'll
made
second that.
and seconded. Any discussion? All those- go ahead.
Do you know what that was? That was why it was so much, Serena? Any ideas what the big invoice was in there?
That is, the Plymouth County Retirement.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Bristol, from Bristol County.
Thank you. It's awesome you knew.
No more discussion then? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then it's adjourn, public input.
It's Woody's big moment. Did you have public input, Woody?
I'm now gonna pass on that,
All right.
and then tonight say will be nice.
Is it ever?
Well, sometimes.
Okay.
Oh, I poached the
Put it out
bear.
there for public input.
Sure, I'll regret it, but it's fine. So lots of regrets.
I had to walk over to the podium because I really appreciate it when you ask other people to come to the podium because I'm hard of hearing, along with any other veteran I know. We're all hard of hearing. But now that I'm up here and Jonathan's off, so I wanted to comment on him too, but he's gone, so I don't want to say nothing. You know, seeing he's gone. But, you know, it's time that we get a proper Board of Health. It's time that possibly we can put our differences aside. I know it's difficult. I don't want to get into who said, he said, she said, but you know what I'm talking about.
I don't think.
You know, you don't?
Nothing was personal.
Well, you said something personal to Barbara about what she said at another meeting,
We lost a.
right? But you said something about her in another meeting that was live on camera too. You know, so, you know, this is a job that we're all doing here.
I worked.
It's-
We worked all Saturday together.
Well, it sure didn't look that way when you said, I'm not gonna say it on camera. Okay, but she heard what you said,
It's fine.
and other people heard what you said too.
Totally.
You know, and I commend you for doing your job. I commend Barbara. I think Peter does a fantastic job as a chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
He has a great demeanor. I've seen a lot of chairmen come through this Board of Selectmen over the years. Peter runs a really nice meeting.
Thank you.
Great.
Mark is the new man on the board here. He's hit the ground running. He understands MGLs. Okay, there was a couple of candidates here today. They might not even know what MGL stands for. They interviewed well. But you know, Leonard Hull knows all this stuff. You know, and he's not my best friend either. And he pissed me off more than once. Okay? You know, he threatened me with a lawsuit. Right? Yeah, you forget that day, Len? My wife did not. Okay? Here I am on camera saying this.
In all fairness, I don't know who hasn't threatened you with a lawsuit.
Yeah, well, come on, I have an attorney, right? I got plenty of money, so if you want to sue me, talk is cheap. That's what I got to say,
Thank you,
Okay.
Woody.
okay?
Appreciate it.
But I'd like to see this board work together for the betterment of this town, right? Not playing games, because how many people have we lost on the Board of Health because of games? Lenny could be a good chairman for that board, and that's what they need right now. And I can assure you, if this man screws up, I'm gonna make him pay the price, because I've stuck my neck out for him more than once, right? And he shafted me once, and I still stuck my neck out for him, and I do the same for you. I do the same for you, and I do the same for you. If you're honest with me, I'll be honest with you, and that's the way Robert Woods operates.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Woody.
Thanks for coming up. I'm happy you did.
Right on.
I'm not gonna ask anyone else to come up.
Anybody else for public input?
No.
Have any comments?
Kind of, yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, you know, we're all subject to public input, but I just want to say I agree with you on your principle that we need new blood. There's nothing wrong with folks who are first and MGLs and so forth, but the town took a chance on me. I had no municipal experience just a few years ago. And now I've managed a pretty large department, and now I'm on the Board of Selectmen. So you take a chance on folks. Sometimes they work hard to prove themselves. We're lucky no matter who we get, but just sticking, it's good to have principles, and you have a
That was probably
principle.
the hardest one because we had 4 excellent candidates.
Right.
We
So
do. We have
that-
all good candidates.
I was asked to make it a 5-member board, which I bringing it to you guys now. I don't recommend it because it's going to cost us another $10,000 a year.
I was asked that as well, and after just getting $21,000 out of the budget, I can't see to put in another 10,000.
Right,
If I was to put any more money, I like to see it towards the employees.
right.
Because they're supposed to be the heart of the department. The board just oversees it, policy. I really like to see our department have a stronger department. Like you had said, the department head within the department, is generally the health agent in this series. So I would like to see that. I think that would be where I would be more willing to put money.
Okay, right, I agree.
I agree as well. And I also like, in the Board of Selectmen, we're overseeing quite a large budget, and we can't converse with each other because there's three of us, so more than one is a quorum. But when you have a 5-member board, two can converse, and I like for the spirit of everything to happen in a meeting. So I think for transparency as well, I like a 3-member board for that reason.
I agree as well.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
No, make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we go with,
When I gave you in.
what would we do? Just table it, put it on the agenda for next meeting?
Yeah,
Okay, then we'll do that.
I think it's the right thing to do.
I agree with what you said. I didn't look at it that way, but I agree.
In the way the department is, I mean, if we get members that, like healthy, knows what to do,
Yeah.
you don't need someone to oversight. Because I don't want someone to oversight. I want
Okay, so,
parts out of here. It's like, this is too much for me.
Have fun.
All right,
Good
we won't
job,
talk to you
guys.
anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Thanks, Karen. Appreciate you.
What we didn't do, okay, never mind.
I need the transfer signed.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, I
the
did.
originals.
You can't go to work.
I don't know what the date is. Is it
7:50.
That's what
I don't know either.
You can't leave it
I
out.
live in the future.
Thank you for mentioning that.